Hello and welcome. Thank you all for being here today. I am Nick Kanoki, Director of Technology for the Asset Leadership Network, and I am having some technical difficulties, but I think we're getting it figured out. Hopefully you can see the screen I'm sharing.
Yes, we
And
can.
awesome. Thanks, Mike, for that confirmation. As you can see here, we are doing an event recap from last week in DC with some of our favorite people of all time. Before we get
Including you. Your picture should be up there, Nick.
fair enough,
Okay.
include and before we get underway, ALN patron members, big thank you to Jacobs, Definitive Logic, Onuma, and ABS Quality Evaluations and CGI, as well as all our organizational members, and there are a few new ones. And so please reach out if you're interested in being a member, and we would love to talk about how we can work together. And with that, I will say next week we have ALN Thursday at 3 that starts a little early with a viewing party of a AI, Artificial Intelligence, National Institute of Building Sciences event. And during normally scheduled Thursday at 3, we will have a follow-up discussion. Maybe Mike can say a little more about that.
Yes, thank you, Nick. It's one of our first attempts at this, but part of our recap of last week was dinner with Roger Grant at the National Institute of Building Sciences, and he is very happy to be connecting with the United Nations, Daniel Platts, who is leading their asset management handbook initiative. And so what we're trying to do here is support the artificial intelligence initiative at the National Building Sciences. They're also doing a digital twin initiative. We have our programs that have these go hand in glove, but what we want to do is watch what the National Institute of Building Sciences is saying. I was going to be watching it anyway, and then immediately go into an after party where we discuss what was said and how the ALN might be able to support the National Institute of Building Sciences and their initiatives. So this is one of those things we're really excited about. We're starting off so strong in 2024, and we've had a long-term relationship with the National Institute of Building Sciences, and we're just happy to continue that. And we've also had a long-standing relationship with the National Academies of Sciences. And boy, was that the wonderful impetus for a wonderful week last week. Thank you, Amelia Shikoi for getting us connected to that program that highlighted the GAO reports, including report on deferred maintenance, and showing how that bookends very well with the National Institute of Building Sciences Federal Facility Council strategies to renew federal facilities. And so those two presentations were great. So we're very happy that Jack Kelly and Jim Dieter are joining us to talk about that program last week. And they can join at any time. But in addition to the actual event there, we met with the Transportation Research Board. We met with Earl Campbell at the Denver Transportation and Infrastructure Department. That's Denver City and County. And he's the CFO there. And he's interested in doing things. And Jim and Jack, welcome. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Good. So
I think we're all still on a bit of a high from last week.
Without a doubt. So Jack, why don't you go ahead and just get started right into it? Why are you on a high about last week?
Well, first of all, this was the first, in-person conference that the ALN has had for a while. And it kind of reminds me about, some of the conferences when I first joined and that we had, every year for several years until COVID hit. It was like a meeting of, meeting of old friends and an introduction of new friends. And and that I think is really powerful. And that's a great way to grow the network. The network is more friends. And so, and I'm really impressed with what you were able to wrap around that day. I mean, the meetings with the Transportation Research Board, the congressional meetings afterwards. A big shout out to Nick for arranging the meeting with Senator Lummis, which I think is just extraordinary. And I went out and checked her committee assignments, and one of her committee assignments is Environment and Public Works, which is, that's right in the asset management wheelhouse. So anyway, it was great. And the other thing that I really thought was good in terms of the old friends was reconnecting with people who we've been connecting with for a long time, like the different folks from the federal folks who got great stories to tell about what they're doing in asset management. And then it was an absolute delight to meet Daniel Platts. I mean, what a cool guy, and what an amazing program he's got in the UN. So,
Well, your friend's comment is very apropos, because when Daniel left the hotel that we were all staying at, he said, I feel like I have a lot of new friends. And he didn't just mean the ALN, he meant the people that we introduced them to.
exactly.
Him too. That was great.
And I guess the other thing that was really kind of just amazing to me was, even though the room, I can't remember how many people we had in the room, but the online presence was just mind blowing. So good job.
I'm pulling up a picture of the room so people can get an understanding. 1 second as I go back to share my screen. Share screen. So we had 44 people in person, and I think 105 at the height of the online activity.
It was well over that, Mike. We'll have to get the final numbers from Cameron, but I think it was closer to 130 online.
Okay. So we found that the hybrid works. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, it was good. If it's presenting information with limited but important feedback opportunities, it works. Works in a hybrid fashion. Nice expression, Mike.
Yeah, I got to edit me out of that photo. That one's a little better. There's Amelia and Mike Arms from the Government Accountability Office. Their colleague, Matt Cook, was not able to fly out of Chicago because of weather. So he was able to seamlessly switch to presenting online. There was another big screen to the right. Let's see, yeah, that's people appeared on this other screen over here to the right. And I guess that's not the kind of details you need. It was just great. Like Jack was saying, Chris Vick from the Department of Interior Bureau of Reclamation led off the afternoon of excellent federal executive presentations. And then Nick and Dave Brewer from Jacobs provided some of the summary comments, including other people who were able to speak out loud. And just while I've got this up, I'm just going to keep going, because while we met with the Transportation Research Board before the event, after the event, we headed to Capitol Hill. And Nick, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I thought Jim made a good point that the hybrid event is good insofar that we could convey a lot of information to a lot of people that couldn't be there in person, as well as those that could. And while there was good discussion through the questions of the Zoom webinar and through the comment section, we really, I feel like, hit our stride when we can enter a discussion with people. And that was so wonderful about the meeting with Wyoming U.S. Senator Lummis, and she was engaged as well as her staff, both on the phone beforehand and in person, asking good questions to kind of figure out how this applies to her and maybe even try to poke some holes in it, which forces us to think hard about good answers and why we have brought this, why we think this is important. So it was just a really awesome meeting and culmination of a great hybrid event with, you know, the really hard and good work of discussion back and forth, challenging questions and answers. So.
You want to
So-
say anything about what, oh, go ahead, Jim?
Rabbit hole true story is Mike and Nick and I show up in the lobby of the hotel in the morning to go over. And Jim and Mike got our suits and ties on, and Nick goes, "Oh, maybe I misread this event. I didn't wear a suit." And we're like, "Oh, no, it's fine." He said, "Well, maybe it's okay for if you're from Wyoming." And we got there, and it turns out it was more than okay when you're from Wyoming. It was exactly the right thing to wear when you're from Wyoming. So
That
good
that
job.
being said, I won't make that mistake again, Jim. I was my first of these kind, and I'll wear a tie next time.
Nick explained the importance of the shirt with 2 pockets instead of 1 pocket.
One of the things that I think is going to be important also is what we do going forward, and particularly, you know, with regard to Senator Lummis's office, because I can't, I mean, first of all, meeting with a member is a huge deal. That is just huge. And as those of us who as Mike and Jim both and I all and a number of other ALN members have tramped around Capitol Hill many times after many conferences, and we normally get to the staff level. I'm not aware that we've ever gotten to the member level. So Nick, thank you again so much for making this connection.
My
What we
pleasure.
need to do, what we need going forward, of course, is to identify the key staffers that support the senator on asset management related issues, and then follow up with maybe some more, you know, more intense briefings so that we can kind of help those staffers become advocates within their own staff and equip them to do a good job doing that. And also deal with the challenging questions. Everybody's got, you know, great questions, and you just have to address them head on. And so, and I think we're well equipped to do that.
Hey,
I guess
Mike,
the other, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mike, why don't you explain the specific ask that we had for the senator?
Well, I'm glad Jack mentioned actions going forward, because we've already started those. And one of the asks was to have the Government Accountability Office do a report on the MAP 21 requirement for an asset management plan in order to get funding. And there has been a study on MAP 21 by the GAO, but not that specific thing. So we've reached out to the GAO, and the GAO is guiding us on how to make this happen. And Senator Cruz is the head of the Senate Transportation Infrastructure. So he's recommending that we get Senator Lummis and other senators. I'm reaching out to my senators. Jack and Jim are in Virginia. Jim is in Virginia. Jack is in Maryland. Anybody else who wants to reach out to us, we'll give you a format letter that you can customize and send to your senator and say, please join the list of people who are asking Senator Cruz to request a report on this specific issue. And then the GAO has asked us to send them our request so that they can see that it's a doable report, because they don't want to be.
Can you just spell out basically for anyone who might be wondering why we're asking for this report exactly?
Yes, thank you, Nick. So when the MAP 21 transit bill was passed in 2016, there was a very strong awareness by the Transportation Research Board, which assists this, but also the Department of Transportation's transit, Federal Transit Agency, which was writing the legislation. And in the legislation, there was a requirement for an asset management plan in order to get money if you wanted more buses, want to extend your train line, wanted to do something with your airport, if there was a pipeline issue, whatever. You couldn't just ask for money, you had to have an asset management plan. And the bill set aside $1 million for training and education so that people who do not know what an asset management plan is or how to put one together had some context for being able to apply to get this money. And we think that investigation into the effectiveness of that requirement and that $1 million for training is going to show that other legislation will want to include a requirement for an asset management plan to get funding.
So let me build on that a little bit. So MAP 21, in addition to having the requirements that you talked about, Mike, for grants and loans through the Federal Transit Administration, it also has requirements for grants and loans through the State Highway or to the Federal Highway Administration. So state highway administrations have, I think the language is a little different because instead of having to show an asset management plan, they have to talk about the process by which they create their asset management plans. In other words, it's kind of like they have to talk about their SAMs. So it's in a lot of ways, that's an even more powerful requirement that is placed on them. The other thing I want to throw in the mix, though, is within the federal government, the transportation, in the House and Senate, has been the most aggressive at promoting asset management through the two programs that we just talked about. Running kind of a distant second are the federal programs related to water and sewer grants, so through EPA. And that's where Senator Lummis's connection to the Environment and Public Works Committee can have a big impact. So what you may want to think about is, and I'm just tossing this out here as kind of an idea, is you may want to see if Senator Lummis would be willing to pile on with Senator Cruz and maybe have GAO look at both sets of programs, because those are the only two areas in which I'm aware that the federal government has required asset management familiarity at some level as a condition of grants and loans, federal money. So it would be interesting to say, well, how did it work in the transportation area? How did it work in the water area? What were their two approaches? What were the results that occurred from those two approaches? So that we learn a broader set of lessons, which I think could be really helpful.
And of course,
Go ahead, Jim.
The idea, you probably put two and two together, isn't just to get a report to say how did it go, but to have a report that we are amazingly certain will be very positive in the impact of requesting these, and that will serve as a basis for as a recommendation from the GAO to groups like OMB and others to put that request into practice, and specifically from a congressional standpoint to start to include that language in bills that deal with assets.
For folks that aren't all that familiar with how the federal government works, or in some cases doesn't work, what has happened here with the ALN's relationship with GAO, which goes back a long time, is that we essentially, the relationship that we've been able to create, which I think all of us value extremely highly, allows GAO to have more influence over federal agencies than it may otherwise, in the following sense. A lot of times GAO is viewed by federal agencies, OMB probably being the Office of Management and Budget, where I used to work, being the principal one, as kind of is either a nuisance or an enemy, because GAO comes in and they call it like they see it. and they don't sugarcoat things. They tell it exactly how they see it. And frankly, I think they do a really good job of, talking about things and making concrete recommendations. But a lot of times it's, you can't guarantee that the federal agencies about to whom recommendations are directed, and I'm thinking of the Office of Management and Budget in particular, will pay any attention. And so this is a way what we are doing, because we are dealing with federal agencies who basically pay attention to GAO, who have gone out on their own to learn about asset management from the standard itself and other asset management initiatives around the world, and connect those people with one another. So we basically are another communications vehicle to connect GAO and federal agencies in a growing community of federal people who are aware of asset management and are at various points along the asset management journey. So I think the combination has been really, really powerful.
Yes, and I love that this is a working session. So Jack, I'll circle back around to you. I'll send you our position paper on map 21, and we'll write something up similar on the highways. So in addition to all of that exciting activity, we were invited to the Transportation Research Board Asset Management Education Subcommittee. And we have been engaged there, and some of our existing activities may become part of the program for the Transportation Research Board Asset Management Education Subcommittee. So, Alex, how are you doing? You are muted.
I'm well, thank you. Sorry for being muted. That made my points moot. Haha. I'm kind of surprised you asked me to join as a panelist, but what can I do?
Okay. I just thought you might have some comments on these developments. I also met with my representative, Mike Quigley, who is pushing for rail bridge funding, because rail bridges are in very bad state of disrepair. So
they are indeed, yes.
We'll connect with them, and I know you worked in the House of Representatives Asset Management. Any comments about all this activity we have going on at?
Well, I'm delighted that that at least several members of the House and Senate are, I'm going to call it, waking up to asset management, because asset management is often an afterthought. So that's a good thing. I have not yet contacted my congressman or senator, but I think you said that Jack lives in Maryland. So Jack is far more qualified to contact those folks.
It's better to have two signatures on the.
Well, that's true. That's true. I'm actually trying to contact one of our senators who is retiring for a completely separate reason, and I can use that reason for this purpose as well.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So I was very happy to see how advanced the Transportation Research Board is with its asset management programs and initiatives. So I'm very happy that we're going to start communicating and possibly working together there. And going back to Daniel Platts from the United Nations, he not only said that he feels like he has a lot of new friends, he's also very interested in continuing programs with the Asset Leadership Network, and is willing to come back down to Washington, D.C. if we have other reason to have his great insight that he brings. And he even mentioned that maybe something at the UN headquarters is worth discussing. So we're definitely going to be following up with him on that possibility. And don't book any hotels in New York quite yet, but I'm going to make it a mission to take him up on pursuing the discussion one thing at a time. So another thing with Daniel was that the federal executives who spoke and participated online were very interested in continuing discussions with him. And there's an ad hoc group of federal executive asset managers that get together regularly, and it's possible that Daniel might be joining them at their February meeting. So we would be quite pleased and honored if that connection comes to fruition.
So we got off the general topic a little bit, but I had one thought I wanted to share, which was that, as Jack Kelly mentioned, we've been, we've been putting on these events for 11 years or whatever. And what we've noticed every year is a couple things happen. One or two new people tend to show up as being key contributors and stick around. So we'll see who that is this year. But then, the big thing is that we do our best to plan a really good program. And Mike did an amazing job with Amelia's help and support and involvement this year.
Cameron Osvig at the National Academy of Sciences, too, director of the Federal Facility Council, just spectacular.
Yep, absolutely. But what we've noticed is the impact and involvement and everything about the ALN has taken a leap every year when we've had these events in ways that, and it's not like we planned it in some particular way. I mean, put on the best program we can for people, but it's almost like a ladder. You can just see the going up the steps of our involvement. And I think, the story of talking to the GAO and talking to the senators about getting them to request a letter so we can get some legislation. That is a lot of hard won connections and knowledge and understanding how to do things. I can brag on the ALN. The impact that we have had to this point far exceeds any reasonable expectation. And it really seems like, Mike has harnessed it now to understand how to apply this bump that we're feeling and experiencing in a way that reflects the goals and aspirations of the ALN, which is to advance and support asset management in the United States and beyond. So I think it's working. Good job, Mike.
Well, it is a team effort, and we would be remiss if we didn't mention Jack Dempsey's critical role in all of this, starting us with the connection to the National Academies, setting the groundwork and helping us understand how to engage with the GAO in the appropriate, legal, proper way. And also his 30-minute report on the strategies to renew federal facilities knocked it out of the park. I can't wait until we get that and are able to make that available. It was magnificent. And what we're waiting on is the Federal Facilities Council is having a board meeting in California, I believe today. And so Cameron went from having our event last week to preparing for the board meeting. And as soon as he gets us that content and the presentations are cleared through his purposes, we'll make that available to everyone. And probably bring in some of the speakers who did such a good job to be on ALN Thursday at 3 in the future to reinforce what they said.
Yeah, I just want to
Go ahead.
expand on what you just said, Mike, a little bit, because as I said right after Jack's presentation, I mean, I can't imagine anybody who could have summarized that massive report so effectively. And it was a masterpiece. And I agree with you. I can't wait till we have a video that we can share of that, because that's like a master class in how to present a very complex, long-standing issue. So thank you.
Yeah, he spelled it out very well. I'll need to watch it again because it's so dense with information. I'll have to slow it down to 5-minute segments that I can get my mind around. But basically, Jack had taught us that the Federal Facility Council has done strategic report, book lengths every 5 to 7 years, and that policy is changed based on the Federal Facility Council efforts. And what they did this time was identified that there is no requirement from OMB for agencies to say if the funding that was provided achieved the intended outcome. And if you don't have to report to a specific outcome, then we have no understanding of where all our money is going. And it's a fatal flaw in our government administration. And thanks to Jack Dempsey, it has been identified. Thanks to Jack Dempsey and the entire Federal Facility Council, it has been identified and clearly articulated as what needs to be done. And we'll use that strategies report as a way to keep marching this through. And like Jim said, this is our 11th year. We're not planning on going away. We're planning our next 10 years. So we have every confidence to be able to walk the strategies suggestions through the White House and Congress. So there is a shout out to Kimon about his comments. If he wants to jump in, just feel free to ping us and we'll make you a member, a panelist. But I think that kind of covers most of the things. I really liked Nick's summary panel job. So why don't we give Nick a summary of this program, unless anybody else online decides they want to say something.
Well, it was my comment to Kimon you just mentioned, so I'll briefly just say I really liked, Kimon had a cool phrasing for it, as he always does with hallucinations, but my general take on what he said was that, without data and a feedback mechanism to see if what we're doing is achieving our goals and then, changing how we set our goals and require it to happen, affecting the process, we're hallucinating basically, or we don't have good information to make informed decisions about how to correct our course. And so I really think it's so important, ties right into what you were saying, Mike, with the strategies, recommendations, and that important work, maybe helping solve a fatal flaw in our government administration.
Okay, well, since you brought up all of that, let me say that we're planning an ALN AI brainstorm, Port Storm 2, for a final presentation in April. We have to work out some scheduling challenges, but that's the time frame. And in that, we will be demonstrating how to have these feedback loops in a way that are meaningful and can actually be achieved right now, because many of our members are finding that the large existing formats for dealing with data are not working, and that it's innovative, smaller, younger companies that are coming up with solutions that fix the problem. So we're excited for that. And Daniel Platts from the United Nations said he can't give a United Nations endorsement for it, but he will be watching it, and he will try to connect us to one of the member states that he's working with that have ports and may be interested in the ALN's AI brainstorm, Portstorm 2, to be focused on their developing nation and how proper asset management of their ports can contribute to their economic growth. Just, you can't have anything better than these types of programs to be moving forward with. And thank you to all of our members for supporting these activities. And we hope you're excited about the things as we are. So thank you, Jack Kelly, for joining us. And thank you, Jim Dieter. Nick, always a pleasure. And can you take us home with the final wrap up?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thanks for all the viewers out there who stuck with us. And a big thank you to our organizational members, especially our patron members, Jacobs, Definitive Logic, now Mantech Company, Onuma, Kimono Onuma, big thanks to him, ABS Quality Evaluations, and CGI, as well as all our organizational members. Maybe shout out to new member Kahua. Again, if you're out there wondering if we could work together, please reach out. We are really good at figuring out how to work together with people and achieve better success in all our missions. So, and then maybe see you guys next week at this ALN Thursday at 3, or the viewing party of the AI National Institute of Building Sciences event that starts 1 hour before the normally scheduled ALN Thursday at 3.
So your registration will allow you to sign in at 2 p.m. Eastern, actually even a little early, Nick. Let's open it up and work out any technical issues. It's the first time we're doing this. Then we'll be able to, you can also register for the National Institute of Building Sciences program yourself. And it's probably good for them to get more viewers than, everyone funneling through the ALN. But, we'll have it going through our ALN Thursday at 3 webinar. And then when it's over, we'll start talking about it. And we have indication that some of the speakers from the program will be joining us in the after party. So thank you all.